in general. A new science called biogeometry claims that there are three geometrical shapes that are very powerful when it comes to the energy. And they are spherical, conical, and pyramidal. From 1940s and 1950s, in the jungles of southern Costa Rica, almost 400 stone spheres resurfaced when United Fruit Company from the US were clearing the jungle in order to plant the banana trees. They came with a big mechanization, removed about 12 to 15 feet of soil. And under the soil, they discovered 398 stone spheres, perfectly spherical, different sizes. Some of them are in the museum in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. According to the archaeologists from this country and some American, those stone spheres were used as the territorial markers for the Indians. Now, I've been several times in Costa Rica. Only two ancient tribes there. They were always very primitive, never had technology to shape those stone spheres. The material they used is called granodiorite. That's a type of granite. Granite is the strongest material in the nature. In order to shape the granite, today we would need a diamond tool. So who had diamond tools thousands of years back? On the Isla del Cano, that's the island in Pacifica, there are more stone spheres, this time from different material called coquina. Coquina is a type of the sandstone material. And then in western Mexico, hundreds of miles away from the Mayan civilization, 700 stone spheres. Again, different material, the volcanic stone, different sizes. Some of them reach 40 tons, 90,000 pounds. In 1966, American archaeologist came to the site. He was shown it by local Mexican guys, and he was amazed. Hundreds of the stone spheres, perfectly shaped. The error from the perfect spherical shape, less than 2%. And he was shocked because, according to the historical records, in this part of Mexico, there were never highly developed civilizations. So what he did, he reported it to the National Geographic, which organized an expedition in 1967, which consisted of 2 geologists and 1 archaeologist. They came to the site, and then in the next issue of National Geographic, on the cover page, the title, "The Stone Sphere Enigma in Mexico Resolved." They are all natural. What they were saying was that the nearby volcano, 30 miles away, was producing somehow only regular, perfectly spherical stones. And during the volcano eruptions, sending them only to one direction, on the top of this hill. 30 miles, radius is 900 square miles radius. And they are all on 1 square mile radius. And they are on the top of the hill. None of them came down. And since National Geographic said that, it meant end of the story. Do not touch that no more. In the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was a rumor among the local population that inside those stone spheres was a treasure, a gold. So what the locals did, they would drill the holes, put the dynamite inside, and blew them up. 90% of the stone spheres are destroyed forever. So there is no trace for the future. Some of them just partially left, some of them completely destroyed. Really, was volcano capable of making only perfectly regular spherical stones and then send them to the top of these little hills? What's the problem with the mainstream science? They cannot explain it. So the best way is to say nothing there, all natural. The next location with the stone spheres is Bosnia. Our non-profit foundation in the last 6-7 years have discovered the stone spheres on 20 different locations on Bosnian territory. And they are made from 3 different materials, from granite, volcanic stone, and the sandstone. In the case of volcanic and the granite, they are shaped like those stones in the northeastern Bosnia, perfectly spherical. Those in central Bosnia, obviously volcanic stone, nicely shaped and then polished. Some of them, like the sandstone here, is not finished yet. The surface has not been polished. The biggest stone sphere in Bosnia so far is 15 tons, about 35,000 pounds. The biggest source of them is in the central Bosnian town of Zavidovići. In 1930s, there was a big storm. The water hit the hill. The hill opened up and 80 stone spheres came out. Half of them were gone to the biggest Bosnian river, River Bosna, and half of them are still there. Interestingly enough, in 1960s and 1970s, there was a rumor that there is a treasure in the Bosnian stone spheres. So what people were doing, they were coming with hammers and dynamite and destroyed 95% of them. There are still a very few that they remained untouched. And can just mention that next year we're going to have a couple of packages for tourists, and one of the places that we're going to visit is the stone sphere site in Bosnia. Why this shape is so important? Because of the energy. Energy, it's not a general term. But for the ancients, they knew exactly why they were using this particular shape. Let me explain you. In central Sweden, the best known archaeological site is called Osmanagić. We have 2 elliptical circles with the megaliths. In the middle, stone spheres. Swedish archaeologists do not know who, when, how, or why built this place. And the way they explain it, they are saying, well, maybe the ancients tried to make a replica of the boats. So, for them, this is a boat. They don't understand, and the ancients knew the energy flows below the surface better than us. Before I entered this circle, the president of the Swedish Dowsing Society measured my aura, the bioenergy field around my body. My aura was about 4 feet in length around my body. Then she asked me to climb the stone sphere, which I did. And then she started measuring my aura. She was saying 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 45 feet, 55 feet. And while standing there, I felt I was on the top of the planet. I said, if I stay here a couple of minutes, my aura will be more than 200 feet. So obviously some unidentified energy was coming to my body, expanding my aura. And then she asked me to climb this tumulus, this artificial conical hill, which I did. And she was measuring my chakras. The energy was coming through my body, so my 7th chakra, the one on the top of my head, opened so much. Why would ancient do something like this? They would collect the energy from this area. First, they would choose the place with the ley lines and potent energy lines, with the underground water flows, generating additional energies. And then they had a system of few dozens of stones in the forest, somehow collecting the energy, sending it to this area. So it was like a central area, a central power plant, if you wish. And then they would distribute the energies around, in the center, in the tumuli. When you expand your aura and your chakras, then you start expanding your spiritual senses. In 21st century, in general, people are saying, yes, we know there are some spiritual senses. We call them the 6th sense. And we have 5 physical senses. However, the ancients knew that there were, besides 5 physical senses, 25 spiritual senses. And they would develop all of them. So their educational process was not to go to school and learn information by heart when Napoleon was born and when he had this battle. But they were improving those spiritual senses. They would basically make creative persons who were able to get all the information from the past and the future. So no wonder that archaeologists today have no clue what they have in front of their eyes. And there's a reason why what mainstream scientists, archaeologists, historians, anthropologists, geologists are telling us about the ancient history is almost all wrong. The origin of man, civilizations, and the pyramids, the 3rd most powerful energetical shape. For the man, they are telling us that we are the product of the evolution. Of course, we are not. At one point, we got here as a product of the genetical engineering. For the civilizations, they are telling us that everything started 8,000 years ago with Sumer, and then Babylon, and Akkad, and Assyria, and ancient Egypt, ancient India. Of course not. That's just the last cycle of humanity. And finally, for the pyramids, they are telling us they were built in ancient Egypt and Mexico. Again, wrong. They are built all over the planet. So we live in the time when the scientific paradigm will be left behind us forever, and the new one is to come. The oldest and most superior Egyptian pyramids were never built as a tomb for the pharaoh. The pyramids on Mexican soil were never built as places where they were going to sacrifice the enemies. Egyptologists are saying that this was the first pyramid on Egyptian soil, and they assign it to the 3rd dynasty pharaoh Djoser, 4,620 years ago. However, the network of underground tunnels was discovered And in those tunnels and chambers, a lot of artifacts and pottery. The age, 5,800 years. The Pharaoh Djoser, 4,600. So it was 1,200 years before the reign of the third dynasty Pharaoh Djoser, and 600 years before the pharaonic Egypt. So who really built this colossal structure? Egyptologists claim that the last third dynasty pharaoh, the Pharaoh Sneferu, built not one, but 3 pyramids. This was one of them, the famous bent pyramid in Dahshur. Why they call it bent? Because the angle changes from 52 to 43 degrees. According to Egyptologists, the reason why they changed that was that in the middle of the construction, they realized that the structure was not so structurally stable, so they changed the angle. Well, they are wrong. Across this pyramid, there is a pyramid called the Red Pyramid, with the angles of 43 degrees. The most famous, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, is 52. So this one contained both numbers, both angles, both slopes. Why? Because the real pyramid builders knew that one of the energy flows within the pyramid goes this way, hitting exactly this point. So by changing the angle, they would make this energy flow quicker. Because as we will see by the end of the lectures, the pyramids were built as the energy machines. Egyptologists of today are simply not equipped with the knowledge to explain the purpose of these structures. So, across the bent pyramid in Dahshur in Egypt is a red pyramid, a beautiful, harmonical pyramid. Now, when we think about the builders, if they were pharaohs, they would probably leave some signs outside that they were the builders. Because on the temples that they were actually built by the pharaohs, you can always see a lot of hieroglyphic symbols and writings and pictures and paintings. Here outside, nothing. Not even a banner stating who built it. Now, there is an entrance to the pyramid. You enter it, no painting on the walls, in the corridors. You get inside, the chambers are empty. No mummies, no hieroglyphic writings, no symbols, no tools, no organic material, not a single proof who, when, and why built this structure. But then Egyptologists are saying the Pharaoh Sneferu was not happy with the first pyramid. Then he was not happy with the second one. So he built the third one, the step pyramid in Meidum. It seems that it was very hard to satisfy this pharaoh. And again, outside, no signs who this pyramid belonged to. Inside, the empty corridors, no mummies. And then Egyptologists are saying that the pharaohs of the fourth dynasty, the pharaoh Cheops, Khephren, and Myceren, father, son, and the grandson, built the most famous pyramids on the planet. Again, outside, you see no signs who built them. Inside, corridors with the megalithic blocks, and empty chambers, and no mummies. The time will show that 2 centuries of claim of Egyptologists and archaeologists, with little help of Hollywood, about the pyramids being the tombs for the pharaohs, is the biggest hoax in human history ever. The Great Pyramid of Egypt, it has a square base. The length of the side, 232 meters. Two sides, 464, divided by height of 147 meters. The result is 3.14. 314 is the number pi. According to historians, that number will not be invented in another 2,000 years, until Pythagoras in ancient Greece. So how come we have this number so clearly in front of our face? With a similar way, we can get to the golden number. Number 5, 1.6. We can get to the distance from our planet to the sun, from our planet to the moon. This is not the knowledge that pharaonic Egypt had. When you go to Cairo and the beautiful National Museum, archaeologists will proudly show the tools of ancient Egypt. Primitive copper tools and the wooden sticks. And they claim that's all they needed in pharaonic Egypt to build this colossal structure which we cannot repeat in the 21st century with all of our technology. On prehistorical Egyptian vases, 7,000 years old, 2,500 before the pharaohs of the 4th dynasty, we can see the motifs of animals and birds and people and sheep and the pyramids by the river Nile, 2,500 years before the Pharaoh Cheops. On some other vases, they go back 8,000 years in time. We have dozens of pyramids. So they are telling us, yes, the pyramids were already there, much before the times of pharaohs. Those pyramids shown here are so-called true Egyptian pyramids, built from superior materials, from granite, from Aswan, which is 600 miles south from Giza Plateau, and from limestone. However, the Egyptian pharaohs did build pyramids during the 12th dynasty, during the 18th dynasty, during the 25th dynasty, but from the inferior material, from the mud brick. And that's common construction material even today. So they tried to make replica of something they already could see there, because it's been there thousands of years before them. But they did not have knowledge, engineering skills, or they did not know how to shape and maneuver with those superior materials. Two civilizations, the older one much more superior, and the most recent one inferior. They're teaching us in schools about the evolutionary way of humanity. They're teaching us wrong. 1,000 miles to the south, the former Nubian kingdom, today's northern Sudan, 224 pyramids. The African continent, we just visited northeastern portion, Egypt and Sudan. But the pyramids were built all over it. To the north, on the Italian islands of Sicily and Sardinia, to the west, on Canary Islands, and to the east, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, the island of Mauritius. Not a single word about those pyramids in history books, in encyclopedias, or even on internet. 43 pyramids on the island of Sicily. 4-sided pyramids, volcanic stone has been used, stepped design, cornerstones nicely shaped on both sides. We don't know who, when, or why. We go to the western coast of Africa, the Canary Islands, 4 of them inhabited. The biggest one is the island of Tenerife. Near the eastern town of Guimar, dozens of pyramids. Again, 4 sides, rectangular faces, plateau on the top, stepped design, the same height of the steps, the same width, cornerstones nicely shaped. When you climb the stairways on the western side, during the most important day for the ancient people, the summer solstice, June 21st, the sun would rise exactly in the middle of the plateau, meaning that the pyramid had orientation to the east, to the summer solstice. 4 years ago, when I had a lecture at La Laguna University in Tenerife, I spoke to the professors. I asked them if they visited pyramids in Guimar. They said, well, we went in Guimar, but according to the Spanish scientific community, these are not pyramids, but pile of rocks made by local farmers while they were cleaning the area to plant the agriculture. I told them, of course they are not pile of rocks, and I gave them all those elements of the carefully planned structures. They got mad because I dared to give a different version than mainstream Spanish scientific community. What is the problem with the Spanish scientists? 550 years ago, the Spanish conquerors were sailing to the west, Middle and South America. And the first one to face them were Guanches, people who were living on these islands. Very advanced culture. They were building stone cities, stone temples, stone pyramids, irrigation channels. But they had no military because they had no enemy. They were in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So the Spanish conquerors wiped them out in a few decades. And today, in order to justify such barbaric acts, they are saying Guanches were very primitive. They were cavemen, not capable of building structures like pyramids or temples. So what they do? Today, they falsify the history. On the other side of the African continent, 2,500 miles to the east from Africa is the island of Mauritius. When you go through the dense fields of sugar cane, 13 feet high, you can see some of the stone structures. When you climb one of them, you have a beautiful view of pyramids, total of 7 of them. Geometrically speaking, perfect case of stepped pyramid. 4 sides, plateau on the top, triangular faces, the steps of same height, same width, volcanic stone, nicely shaped cornerstones. Orientation of this side is to the east, to the summer solstice. Well, Mauritius is in southern hemisphere, so summer solstice is December 21st. No doubt that we have the same builders like on the other side of Africa, 4,000 miles away. When I measured the pyramids on Canary Islands and sent my report to my Egyptian colleagues in Cairo and Alexandria, they were shocked. They did not know about the pyramids. They think the only pyramids were built in Egypt. They know a little bit about Sumer and Babylon, and that's it. That's the end of the ancient world history. Now they saw those. They said, strange. we thought that the pyramids were a product of very advanced societies, like pharaonic Egypt. But when I sent them the pictures from the pyramids from Mauritius, they stopped talking to me. Everything they believed was gone. Once I did the measurement and concluded that 4 of them had perfectly squared base, I sent the report to the government of Mauritius, and I suggested them to investigate them together, because nothing about those pyramids can be found anywhere. They never did any systematic investigation. And then I got the answer back from the government of Mauritius. They were saying, Dr. Osmanagić, we don't have pyramids. What you are referring to are simply pile of rocks made by local farmers 100 years ago while de-rocking the area. End of the story. What are they afraid of? In every history books, every encyclopedia, the island of Mauritius was not inhabited until the 16th century. And then white Europeans came from Italy, France, Portugal, Holland, UK. Of course, Europeans never built pyramids. So who did? They were built thousands of years before. So now, if the government is to investigate that, they would need to change their history. So, who to believe? The governments or our own eyes? I had a press conference on the island, and I talked with the local reporters. I had a presentation, showed them photos, and the next day there was an article in the biggest newspaper on Mauritius, L'Express. The title, "This bright Bosnian wants to change our history." They were saying, of course we know that we don't have pyramids. The Mayan civilization on what's today known as 5 Middle American countries, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Belize, built 100,000 pyramids. 100,000. For the longest time, this one was considered the biggest. It is in the northern Guatemalan province of Petén, in the Mayan city of Tikal, 94 meters or about 300 feet. However, 12 years ago, a new Mayan city deep in the jungle was discovered, El Mirador. The whole city is in the jungle, and here is their biggest pyramid, 330 feet. If completely cleaned and recovered, it would look like this. Now, the Mayan city of Tikal was considered as some type of the Mayan capital. It was so big. And the whole city can get inside 2 biggest pyramids in El Mirador. What do we know about the Mayan world? When we enter Palenque, this is the view that we can see, the famous Temple of Inscriptions. Total of 25 pyramids have been cleaned, but they had 1,530 pyramids in Palenque. 99% of the city is still in the jungle. During my last visit in August of 2012, I finally witnessed that they started excavation under the Temple of Inscriptions, and they proved that there is a tunnel, underground tunnels that connects 3 pyramids to the right. Now they are saying there are tunnels under the whole city, and most probably the tunnels connect several Mayan cities in what's today known as the Mexican states of Tabasco and Chiapas. I wrote about those tunnels 12 years ago. To the left of the famous Temple of Inscription is the biggest and the oldest Mayan pyramid. Hasn't been touched yet, and they had no plans to do that. Because if they do, they would prove that the oldest pyramid is at the same time the most superior and the biggest. Here it is. A few stone blocks at the bottom of the pyramid can be found. Here's another one built a few thousand years later. This is the biggest pyramid in the Mayan city of San Andres in El Salvador. Looks like a natural hill. If completely cleaned, this is its look. The biggest pyramid in Mayan city of El Chuatan looks like a natural hill, and only at the bottom we can see traces of the blocks making the steps. Western Honduras, the Mayan city of Copan. 1987 to 1989, the archaeologists from Honduras and the US were cleaning the walls of the pyramid from the trees and the roots. And then they discovered that inside the biggest pyramid, there was a 700 years older temple, which they named the Rosalila Temple due to its rose color. Perfectly preserved temple. In this particular case, the pyramid served as the protection for something even more sacred. Above the entrance, we can see the symbol for our solar system. Above that symbol, there is another one, the white one. That's the symbol for the core of the galaxy, Milky Way, which they called Hunab-Ku. And between those two symbols, to the left and to the right, to the left and to the right, something that looks like a vehicle with the wheels, with the body of the vehicle, and with a cabin. And inside the cabin, we can see the Mayan profile with their characteristic big noses and the big cheeks. What is the message in the stone? That they were moving with their vehicles between the center of our solar system and the center of our galaxy. Only 5 Mayan books remained. They call them Mayan codexes. One of them, Dresden Codex, which is kept in the Dresden Museum, 140 years ago was partially deciphered. We could see those symbols for the solar system and for the center of the galaxy. And there was a number. Now, the numbers we know. That number was a little bit less than 26,000. So, the Mayans were saying our solar system, galaxy, 26,000 years. We had no clue then, at the end of the 19th century, what they were talking about. Because our knowledge, astronomical knowledge, was not there to follow them. In 1990s, we finally confirmed that our solar system moves within our galaxy Milky Way, and that one cycle takes 25,920 years. We were using telescopes and computers for 100 years. In the case of Mayans, they knew that without a telescope and computers 4,000 years ago. How did they get that knowledge? The tiny state of Belize, former British Honduras, had 100 Mayan cities, towns, villages. Every one of them would have several pyramids. And most of them, 99%, are still in the jungle. The main city of Casablanca in El Salvador, with the biggest pyramid partially cleaned. And now, Peru, South America. 50 miles south from the famous Nazca lines. 7 years ago, when I went there, Italian archaeologists told me that they discovered 3-step pyramids in a stone desert. When I went back again 3 years ago, now they are telling me there are 34 pyramids discovered. So who built this city of pyramids in southern Peru? Everything they tell us is wrong. Peruvian and Italian archaeologists call this city the Sun City. We do not know its real name. They are telling us it was built by the Nazca culture. There was never a culture by that name on Peruvian soil. There is a modern Nazca city. They are telling us that it was built 1,800 years ago. I asked them if they found any organic material inside the pyramids. They said inside one of them, which they called the Pyramid of the Moon, they found a female bone, which is 4,500 years old, according to the radiocarbon datings. So I asked them, how is it possible to have bone 4,500 years old inside the structure which is only, according to you, 1,800 years old? What is their problem? Officially, Peruvian history is only 3,000 years. They cannot change it. We go to the north of this beautiful country, the area of Tucumán. 250 pyramids built from the adobe bricks. If you remove the desert sand, at the bottom, you can find the walls. Now, we can see traces of vertical erosion. It means that the structure has been exposed to the rain and storms. Now, we know that the climate in this area of Peru has been the same for 7,000 years. Now, for 7,000 years, we haven't had rain or storms. So when the structures were built then, 8,000 years, 15,000, 50,000 years ago, we don't know. Northeastern part of Peru, the biggest pyramidal structure on South American continent. This is the Pyramid of the Sun, Huaca del Sol, near the town of Trujillo. Again, step pyramid built from the adobe bricks. What we have today is impressive structure with a surface equal to 6 football fields. However, this is just 1/3 of the original structure. When the Spanish conquerors came at the beginning of the 16th centuries, with only one goal, to steal all the gold and treasure they could find, they came in the front of this pyramid. It was so impressive. They did not know how to start. So they moved the nearby river, Moche, to the pyramid. So 2/3 of the structure is gone forever. But even what remained is 150 million bricks. And when we see those individual bricks, we can see that they have different carvings on the top. Lines, spirals, something like numbers, dots, 150 million originals. Across is Huaca de la Luna, the Pyramid of the Moon, another 150 million bricks, hundreds of millions of bricks. According to archaeologists, it would take 30,000 people working day and night for 300 years to build the complex. Now, if you have 30,000 workers, you would need to have a city with 100,000 people to support their efforts. There is a problem with that. 100,000 people cities would require 100,000 homes. So far, they managed to find only 2. And the second problem, why would you start building the complex that will take 300 years, which the grandchildren of your grandchildren will not see the completion? The most northern Mexican city with the pyramids is Tula. According to encyclopedias, that was the capital for Toltecs from the 8th to 12th century. 3 pyramids remained. On top of one of them, we can see 8 stone columns. Legends say that Toltecs called them Atlanteans. Legends say that Toltecs claim for themselves that they came from the east, from the Red Land. Well, to the east from Mexico is the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Those stone columns show different faces of different races, of different colors, from different continents. Black and white and red and yellow and brown. How did Toltecs know about people from all continents in the 8th century, 700 years before Columbus sailed to Mesoamerica? They are telling us that only when white Europeans started sailing to Middle, North, and South America, the communication between continents started. Well, they are telling us wrong. The communication was there not thousands, but tens of thousands of years before. The Kukulkan pyramid is the best known Mayan pyramid. On 4 sides, we have 91 stairs, 4 times 91, 364. When we add the platform on the top, 365, which is the number of days in our solar calendar. A lot of astronomical, mathematical, and geometrical knowledge is incorporated here. Almost the same design, but 8,000 miles to the east. In Cambodia, Koh Ker Pyramid, Southeastern Asia. We don't know who, when, how, or why. We continue to the east, another 2,000 miles, Korean Peninsula, what we call today South Korea, the town of Andong, 3 stepstone pyramids, volcanic stone. We don't know anything about their builders. The second largest ceremonial city on Mexican soil is Monte Alban. The ancient builders flattened the top of a huge mountain. From one end to the other, there is a difference less than 1 inch. It's completely flat, level. They built the city of pyramids. Some of them completely clean, some of them still covered by soil and vegetation, waiting for better times and more money. The Chinese pyramids have been a mystery for the longest time. 1967, the Chinese archaeologist who was investigating them was in Japan on an international conference. And he told that there were 250 pyramids in the central Chinese province of Shanxi. He said that some of the clay tablets were found near the pyramids with some type of the hieroglyphic writings. And he partially deciphered it. And he said the pyramids were built over 12,000 years ago. He went back to China, and they put him to the mental hospital. And nobody heard about him no more. Why? Officially, the Chinese history is 5,000 years old. Officially, the history of advanced Chinese society, 2,500 years. Everything started, according to the mainstream scientists in China, with the Emperor Qin, who united in blood 7 Chinese provinces, who started building the Great Chinese Wall, and now we go 10,000 years before him. 1967 is the first year of the famous Chinese Cultural Revolution. If you dare to say something different than official position, you would have problems. So at the end of 1960s, the whole of 1970s, the half of 1980s, Chinese government ordered the trees to be planted on top of their pyramids. They wanted to hide them from the outside world and tell them, hey, these are just forests and natural hills. However, thanks to the satellite technologies in the 1990s, we did locate all 250 pyramids they had. We were able to see that the shape is the same. It's the shape of pyramid with 4 triangular faces. But the size is different. 20 big pyramids, 230 small pyramids. They are all oriented to the cardinal points, east, west, north, and south. However, the biggest pyramids have never been investigated, still covered by soil and vegetation. According to the Chinese leading archaeologists, the government is not giving them permission, and they are already told it will take another generation of Chinese scientists before they start excavating those, because it's going to have a great impact. What we do know from the scarce information is that the biggest pyramids are built from superior materials, granite and sandstone, and the smaller one from the mud bricks. They do have permission to investigate smaller ones. They're finding a lot of artifacts belonging to very concrete Chinese emperors from 2,200, 2,000, 1,800 years until 1,000 years before present. So obviously, the Chinese emperors tried to make replica, but no knowledge, no technology, no engineering skills. The same result like in Egypt. The South American soil again, Bolivia. The pyramid complex of Acapena, step pyramids, today completely covered by soil, grass. However, we can see some remaining blocks. They are made from granite. Again, granite, the most superior and the hardest natural material. On a Mohs scale from 1 to 10, granite is number 6.5. Archaeologists are saying that until 2,000 years ago in this area, only copper tools existed. Copper is on the same scale from 1 to 10, number 3. So they are inferior to granite. You cannot shape superior material with the inferior tools. Today, we would use diamond tools to shape granite. Some of the blocks so perfectly fit each other. Some of them are so perfectly straight, like laser straight. Today we could use this as an instrument. And some of them were obviously machined. German Bolivian mathematician and archaeologist Mr. Poznansky spent 50 years investigating this complex, and he concluded that it was built 17,000 years ago. Who had diamond tools, lasers, and the machines 17 3,000 years ago. The history of Bolivia will have to be changed. This is the look of the famous Pyramid of the Sun in the city of Teotihuacan on Mexican soil 150 years ago, completely covered by the bushes and soil. It took 3 archaeological campaigns and 75 years for Mexican and American archaeologists to completely clean it and restore it. And this is how it looks like today. One of the most beautiful examples of the pyramid architecture. When we look from the bottom of the pyramid, the tourists who are climbing the top, they are becoming so tiny. It seems that the builders wanted to reach the sky with this structure. And indeed, 74 meters, about 225 feet. Interestingly enough, the Cheops, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, is exactly 2 times higher. As we heard before, the base of the Cheops pyramid is square. The base of this pyramid is square. The length at the base of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, 232 meters. The length of the base here, 232 meters. Cheops pyramid has number pi, 3.14 incorporated in it. Here it's the root of number pi. 3 big pyramids on Giza Plateau, Cheops, Khafre, and Mycerian. 3 big pyramids here. The pyramids of the sun and the moon and the Quetzalcoatl. And their layout is exactly the same. They're telling us that 4,500 years ago, for them that was the age when the Egyptian pyramids were built, there was no communication between Africa and Central America. They are teaching us wrong. Here we can see the signature of the same architect. The pyramids on the US soil, my son, they never taught him about the pyramids in the US. But there are not one, but over 200 pyramids here in the States. Southwestern section of the state of Illinois, in what's called Cahokia State Park, is home for the largest pyramid on American soil. Its base is 12% larger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Everything they tell us about this complex is wrong. American archaeologists are saying that the name of the city was Sun City. We don't know its real name. They are telling us these are mounds. Well, mound is something that you build with dirt. But here you have 4 types of the construction material. Sandstone blocks, pebbles, rocks, sand, and when they completed the structure, they would cut the squares of grass and soil, turn them upside down, and cover the pyramids. They needed an equivalent of 226,000 trucks with the material to build this structure. 20-ton trucks, 50,000-pound trucks. And they had 200 pyramids. How many tens of millions of tons of materials they used to build this complex? They're telling us that Indians built it. Indians did not have a social organization to maneuver with tens of millions of tons of materials. They are telling us that the Mississippians built it. Indian tribe, but by such name never existed on US soil. They are calling this park Cahokia State Park. Cahokia was a minor Indian tribe from the 17th century that had nothing to do with this complex. They came there millennia after the complex was abandoned. All the pyramids are 4-sided, and they perfectly match cardinal points. east, west, north, and south. North, cosmic north. All of them but one, the biggest one. That one was oriented at the time of building to the magnetic north. Now, there is a difference between magnetic and cosmic north. Cosmic north is more or less fixed. Magnetic moves between Canada and Siberia and back. Last year it moved about 27 miles. The builders who knew the difference between magnetic and cosmic north were not primitive Indians. They were advanced society. 5 pyramid complexes on Italian soil. Not a word about them in history books. This is the biggest one, the Monte Vecchio pyramids in northern Italy between Milan and Turin. 1, 2, 3. The layout exactly the same like the layout of Giza pyramids. Exactly the same like the layout of Mexican pyramids in Teotihuacan. And almost the same like the 3 stars in Orion Belt. The Pyramid of the Moon, Teotihuacan, 150 years ago, and today. Every day, 20 to 50,000 tourists come and visit this place, and every year they leave $5 billion to Mexican economy. Every year, 8 million people visit Egyptian pyramids, leaving $15.5 billion to Egyptian economy. So archaeological tourism has become an engine for the economies of those countries. And at the end of this short introduction, the biggest and the oldest, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The town of Visoko, 20,000 people, 20 miles northwest from the capital city of Sarajevo, is a home for several pyramids on European soil. We have learned that pyramids have nothing to do with the pharaohs, slaves, tombs. The pyramids are structures, geometry, constructions. When it comes to geometry, you have to have 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Triangular faces. The same slope from bottom to the top. Visible corners. And all 4 sides, they meet at apex. So the geometry is there. For the first time, a large archaeological project is not run by the Department for Archaeology at the universities, by national museums, by Ministry of Cultures, by people who are paid to do their job, but by the non-profit, non-government foundation called Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation. But the people who are enthusiasts, who love the research, the pyramids, and their country. We have spent over 300,000 hours on archaeological excavation, lab analysis, sample testing, radiocarbon datings, and concluded that in the town of Visoko we have a complex of 5 pyramids, which we named the Pyramids of the Sun, and the Moon, and the Dragon, and Earth, and Love. And under the pyramids is a huge network of tunnels and chambers. And the whole complex we named the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. The main pyramid, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Its orientation was measured by the State Institute for Geodesy. So far we thought that the best orientation is of the northern side of the Egyptian pyramid, Great Pyramid of Egypt, with the error of 0 degrees and 2 minutes from the perfect north. According to the Bosnian Institute, when they apply the scientific instruments, they find out that the error from perfect north is 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds. Never in human history such precise orientation was achieved, like the one here in Bosnia. Traveling all around the world investigating this phenomena, I established a set of 7 scientific criteria that the pyramids need to fulfill in order to call them pyramids. Geometry is one of them, orientation the second one, the construction material the third one, inner passageways the fourth one, underground tunnels and chambers the fifth one, the water flows, the rivers above and underground the sixth one, and the sacred geometry as the seventh. This is a nice 3D topographic map of the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia, which shows the corners between west and north, north and east, east and south, and this access plateau, a causeway, which is completely paved, about 800 feet by 250 feet. As we can see, the top is flat, plateau. All the original pyramids, as I call them, in China, Egypt, Mexico, Peru, or Bosnia, had capstone, pyramidion, how it was called. The pyramidions were always built from the better quality material, granite, gold-plated granite, or gold. And all the original pyramidions are missing today, like they were systematically removed from the tops. 3 main pyramids in Bosnia, Sun, Moon, and Dragon, form a perfect equilateral triangle when we connect their tops. The distance between them, 2,170 meters, or approximately 1.3 miles. Inner angles at 60 degrees. The top of the lava, earth, and the river form another perfect triangle. Triangle within triangle, sacred geometry. The center of these triangles is very important. If we use the center of these triangles, and then we extend those triangles to the natural landmark, like the places where 2 rivers meet, we are getting another one, which is based for the flower of life. And again, if we use the same center, it's the base for the sacred cube. Who had survey capabilities from the air thousands and thousands of years back? When we look the shadow of the Sun Pyramid during the summer solstice, June 21st, and compare it to the western slope of the Moon Pyramid just before the sunset, we can see that the shadow forms another pyramid, same in size like the Moon Pyramid. They touch each other at the base. 2 months later, we are following the shadow of the Sun Pyramid, going toward the western slope of the Moon, 6:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m., the shadow of the Sun completely covers the Moon Pyramid. And the shadow touches the top of the Moon Pyramid. So obviously, the ancient builders built the Sun Pyramid first. They were watching the shadow. At the sunset, they said, okay, this is the location. They built the Moon Pyramid, and the size, the height of the Moon Pyramid, they determined based on the shadow. Obvious astronomical relationship between 2 structures. I've seen hundreds of pyramids in Central and South America by these names, but never such an obvious connection like what we have here. Using satellite thermal devices, We've checked the temperature of the valley, the rivers are here, during the daytime and during the nighttime. And then we were getting the loss of energy. If you have a natural hills, they are very compact. It takes a long time for them to heat up. It takes a long time for them to lose the energy. But in the case of artificial structure, the heat loss is very quick. Conclusion, the biggest heat loss is in the case of the pyramids of the sun and the moon and the dragon and the love. And then we applied another technology. It's called PIP camera, developed by Dr. Harry Oldfield from United Kingdom. With this camera, he is able to film what he called bioenergy fields, which are not visible by naked human eyes. This is a natural pointy hill in Bosnia, and those bioenergy fields are horizontal. Green and red and blue and green and red and orange. This is village in Bosnia, and again, those fields are horizontal. And this is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. And those fields are vertical, all of them. Now, Egyptian, Chinese, Mexican, or Peruvian archaeologists are saying that they are not interested in energy properties of the pyramids. Our project in Bosnia is the only one who's open for everyone, for the mainstream scientists, conservative, alternative, spiritual, everybody is welcome. So, this is the first case that one pyramid in the world was filmed by this camera developed by Dr. Oldfield. So you'll be able to see how the pyramid works. So the Sun Pyramid, vertical fields. Of course, this circle is rather appropriate to this type of meetings here at EPIC. Now, watch the red. It's the energy. You see how much energy you have? This energy got released to the top. It's hitting those horizontal fields. They are becoming vertical. And they are vertical all the time. You see, this thing obviously got its gas it needed, the energy, and now it's leaving. Caught on camera. Now, we did film this pyramid during the different seasons in spring and summer and fall, and we always have this type of vertical energy fields, meaning that the pyramid works constantly. A few words about the archaeology. The Sun Pyramid, places where we did some excavation, the corner between north and east. All other places show the presence of the construction material. Northeast corner, the year is 2006, removed 3-foot layers of soil, and we are finding perfectly preserved corner. Our trench number 4C, northern side, 3 foot of soil, removed it. We are finding nicely shaped rectangular blocks. 15 feet by 5 feet by 1.5 feet, 7 tons or 16,000 pounds. Second block, the third block, we can see that they form the same slope. But it is just the first row of blocks. Below, the second row of blocks. below the third row of blocks, and then the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Typical construction. Not the work of Mother Nature, but intelligent hands. We took samples from those blocks, sent them to 6 different institutes for materials, Bosnia, France, and Italy. And from the first one, the Institute for Construction from Tuzla, Bosnia, they said that those blocks were poured artificial construction material. They were poured at the site. From the Institute from University of Sarajevo, when they analyzed the sample, their conclusion was that it was a man-made concrete. Now, when it comes to concrete, 2 properties determine the quality of the concrete. The first one is hardness. The harder the concrete, the better the quality. Our concretes in 21st century are in the range from the 10 megapascals to 60 megapascals. 60 megapascals are the best quality concretes made in Germany and the US for the custom projects. The sample here shows hardness of 73.6 megapascals, harder than anything we can make today. The second property of a concrete quality is water absorption. If water can get inside the concrete during the winter, it freezes and then it breaks. So the idea is to keep this water absorption as low as possible. Our norm, up to 3%. Here, we have only 1%. And it explains the durability of those blocks. They've been around for thousands of years. They could withstand another 100,000 years. From the University of Zenica, the third institute, Professor Pašić, he has measured over 50 samples, and some of them were reaching unbelievable levels of 133 megapascals. Never in human history such a good quality concrete was made like the one that covers the largest pyramid on the planet. In his scientific report, Professor Pašić concludes that the builders of the Bosnian pyramids used readily available materials. We can see rocks and pebbles and sand. And for the binding material, this brownish material, they used clay, a lot of clay around. They ground clay, mix it with the water, here up to 400 degrees, and then when liquid, clay is getting binding properties. Now, according to every scientific book, the ancient Romans invented concrete. They were the first one who used clay as the binding agent a little bit over 2,000 years ago. 6 years ago, I met the president of the Bosnian Academy of Sciences. And I asked him, Professor, why don't you come and visit the Bosnian pyramids? It's just 20 minutes ride from the capital city. He said, you claim that it was concrete over there. I wanted to tell him it was not me who claimed that, but scientific institutes. But he continued. He said, well, everybody knows. Every scientific book says that the concrete was invented by the ancient Romans. Therefore, what you have there is not concrete, and there are no pyramids there. So he turned his back and left. After that, not a single member of Bosnian Academy of Sciences showed up at the site. Therefore, it was interesting to see what the descendants of those ancient Romans would tell us. We sent our samples to the Politecnico di Torino in Turin, Italy, the most distinguished construction institute in Italy. 25,000 professors, PhD, construction engineers, students. When they analyzed our samples, they told us what we already knew, that the binding material for the concrete was produced by clay heating process. And finally, we sent our samples to the best known researcher of the ancient concretes and ancient cements, Dr. Joseph Davidovits of France, who established the Institute for Geopolymers, who served as a consultant to the European Union. He was the first one who claimed in 1979 that the blocks of the Great Pyramid of Egypt were actually poured blocks made in situ, concrete blocks. At that time when he said that, everybody was laughing at him. But then he was very stubborn. And then Egyptologists started attacking him very aggressively. But then he said it was a concrete because he had proofs. For 15 years, they boycotted him. And finally, in 1994, when he established his institute, he experimentally proved, using the same ratio of the same elements, like those at Giza Plateau in Egypt, that those blocks were really possible to get them by this pouring process. After that, the whole world opened up to him. Today, he works with MIT, with Drexel University, and so on. Well, anyway, he got our samples. He said, this is concrete. He put it under electronic microscope, and he found what he called geopolymer cement, artificial binder. Two leading Russian geophysicists, Professor Oleg Kavroshkin and Vladislav Tsiplakov, came to Bosnia. Before coming to Bosnia, they were researching Egyptian pyramids, 15 biggest Egyptian pyramids. They would place their geophysical instruments on all four sides of the pyramids. They would hit it, and they were checking the vibrations. They repeated the same experiment with the natural hills. The results were, of course, different. They came to Bosnia. They got the same experiment. The conclusion after 2 seasons was that the results of the Bosnian pyramids were the same like the results of Egyptian pyramids. They were artificial structures. Secondly, they found out that the pyramid in Bosnia is of the non-compact material. So it was not the case, like some of my Egyptian colleagues claim, that there was a natural hill, somebody shaped it, made the triangles, and made the orientation, and covered with concrete. No. It was built from the bottom up. And the third conclusion, looking from the top of the pyramid, they discovered the network of the tunnels under the pyramid, 280 meters below, 900 feet below the top. They submitted the report to the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences. And they said, well, this is one of the biggest discoveries, not only in archaeology, but in the science, ever. And that's the reason why they admitted me as the youngest member of the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, with the dozens of Nobel Prize winners. When I came back to Bosnia, in academia, they started talking about it. They said, well, Mr. Osmanagić probably paid them to become a member. So from day one, we started excavation, removing the layers of soil from the biggest pyramid in the world, exposing those concrete blocks. And of course, these photos from the early stage show our average productivity. One is working, hundreds are watching.
It's the same way here with the highways.
And on top of that, one is having a speech here.
Yeah.
Well, one would expect that in Little Bosnia, which had that terrible war from 1992 to 95, so 10 years after, everybody would welcome this project. Common people, professors, academia, politicians, because the first pyramids in Europe, the biggest on the planet. There's the chance for science, economy, tourism, politics, for everything. Hasn't happened. Common people were for. But the cultural establishment against our project. Professors of archaeology and history and geologists, they were saying, oh, there are no pyramids in Bosnia. We did not have pharaohs. We did not have hundreds of thousands of slaves. From the National Museum, they were saying, oh, we know this terrain, no pyramids there. They never came to see the site. They never came to see our excavation. Not only that, before we even started the excavation in the spring of 2006, they wrote petition, 25 of them, leading Bosnian archaeologists and historians, asking the Bosnian government to stop, to prevent the excavation process. When we just started in April of 2006, the Bosnian Prime Minister came. He saw those rectangular blocks. He said, this is man-made concrete. He saw thousands of people coming. He said, oh, this is good for the tourism. Mr. Osmanagić, keep doing what you're doing. And don't worry about the jealous scientists. Well, they got upset. They got connected with the head of the European Archaeological Association, Dr. Anthony Harding. They asked him help. So he started writing against us. Some of those letters are still on internet. He was saying, oh, it's a big hoax. Nothing there. They want to make money. We didn't care what he was writing about. Then he organized a second petition, which was signed by 85 leading American and British and German and French scientists, anthropologists, geologists, archaeologists, historians. Without even seeing the site, they were all saying, nothing there, big hoax. They are destroying existing sites. They should be stopped. They have no experts there. The Bosnian government rejected that second petition. So now they got upset. They sent letters to the national European archaeological associations in Italy, in France, in Germany, in Austria, and Croatia, asking them to boycott the project and not to go to Bosnia. They have our project at every conference they had, in Malta, in Croatia, other countries. They were always saying, oh, it's a big hoax, needs to be stopped. It's a perfect example how not to work in archaeology. Well, 2006, I did not have archaeologists from Europe. So what I did, I asked help from Egyptian government. They decided to send me 3 experts. The first one to come was Dr. Ali Baraka, the guy with the 4 decades of experience in geology and archaeology. He wrote a book about the Egyptian pyramids. He was on National Geographic, so he came to Bosnia, spent 42 days. He wrote his scientific report, which he read at the press conference in Sarajevo on June 23rd. He finished his report with the words, "The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is a man-made pyramid." A big boost for us. Big slap in the face for Bosnian experts. The same day, June 23rd, from the National Museum, the letter is going to his boss, Pharaoh Dr. Zahi Havas. And they are writing him, "Your man was in Bosnia. He confirmed the existence of Bosnian pyramids. That's ridiculous. That's impossible. You have to stop him." 2 days later, June 25, Dr. Havas is having a meeting in Cairo between the Ministry of Culture of Egyptian government, Ministry of Tourism of Egyptian government, and his Supreme Council of Antiquities. One topic on agenda: effects of discovery of Bosnian pyramids to tourism in Egypt. Imagine 20% of tourists instead to Egypt coming to Bosnia. A majority of Egyptian tourists are from UK, France, Poland, and Russia. Egypt is in Africa, and Bosnia just happened to be in Europe. 20% of $15.5 billion is over $3 billion. So the discovery of Bosnian pyramids is not a local issue. It's a global, scientific, economical, political issue. After the meeting, Dr. Havas is coming in front of the journalists with the words, "There are no pyramids in Bosnia. Those concrete blocks are not concrete, they are natural blocks." Dr. Barakat is no expert in pyramids. And Osmanagić is hallucinating. So, Dr. Barakat is going back to Cairo, to his office in Ministry of Geology. He got back and he got fired.
Yeah.
Because he dared to say his sincere scientific mind and his opinion. He did not ask for the permission of his superiors. And what did we do? We kept hallucinating and opened the project to the volunteers from all over the world who came to little Bosnia in the middle of nowhere at their own expense. They were helping us removing the layers of soil and exposing the concrete blocks of the largest pyramid in the world. Such enthusiasm has never been recorded in archaeological and maybe in scientific world in general. The people who are not even archaeologists, professors, or even students of archaeology, they were good intentional. They were given the opportunity to come, to work, to have a joy of new discoveries. They were active parts of new discoveries. And that enthusiasm lasted for 3 weeks. Until the Bosnian State Commission for the National Monument Preservation changed the law. And because of the very small, neglected medieval fortress on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and nobody took care of it for 550 years. It was not even visible. Because of that fortress, they used that as excuse to change the law and to claim the whole pyramid to be a protected area. Not because of the pyramid, but because of the medieval times. We were working 1,400 feet away, and all our archaeological trenches have become a part of the protected area. So we could not work there anymore. Now, in the law, there is a way to work even in those protected areas, but you need to submit the scientific project documentation, you need to submit the proofs of the financial tools, equipment, experts, and so on, which we did. We wrote the project together with the biggest archaeological faculty in the world, the one of the Cairo University. Now, they got 5,000 students that graduate every year. That's more than all European archaeological faculties together in every country. Working with leading Egyptian archaeologists would be a reason to be proud in every normal country. In our case, at the Federal Institute for National Monuments, they rejected our project 3 times with no written explanations. And her boss, the Minister for Culture, during 2 terms, 8 years, He was stating publicly, as long as he is minister, he will not give us permits. They even organized a group of 8 of them, leading politicians, ministers in cultural area. And they were distributing the tasks. You don't give him permission, you don't give him money, cut the funds, you boycott him in media, you don't let him in UNESCO. And some of the leading magazines and the newspaper journalists, they were writing against us. Despite everything, we kept going. I got my business in Houston, so I was financing the project. So they were thinking what to do next. They started writing against me. They had to discredit me as the head of the project. So they started writing articles that Osmanagić got rich during the 1990s in Yeltsin's Russia, cooperating with the Russian mafia. Of all the countries I've been, I've never been in Russia until a few years back. Well, so much obstacles. We kept going. And what did we do? We sued the government. 4 years they kept our file, they kept our case in drawers until last year. So finally, they got the judgment at the court in Sarajevo. For the first time in the history of this country, the court decided in our favor. One little non-profit foundation won the case against the government. They said what they were doing was not legal. So, 2012, we got back on the pyramid of the sun. We continued working, removing the layers of soil, exposing more and more areas of the Bosnian pyramids. More concrete blocks, our trench number 4A, 4C, 5, 5B, 10, 12. Wherever we are digging, we are finding concrete blocks. In 2010, we organized our first summer camp for volunteers. And for the first time, from 2006, we got archaeologists from European countries, 6 of them, from Italy, France, Spain, UK, Hungary, and Croatia. They were showing me the letters from their professors, archaeologists, in which they were telling them not to go to Bosnia. And when they did, when they came back to their respective countries, they received another set of letters. I saw the letter from professor of University of Milan, in which he's saying, our archaeologist Sara, now when you were in Bosnia, you'll never be able to find a job in Italy, no more. But they were telling me, our individual destinies are less important than the global importance of this project. So now we started an excavation of the second pyramid, the Pyramid of the Moon. A little bit different design. We are finding beautiful terraces wherever we dig. But then again, experts, geologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, from their cozy offices in Sarajevo and Tuzla and Paris and London and Boston and New Orleans, they were saying, there is nothing there. It's all natural. Even some of them who claim to be open-minded professors, alternative scientists like Dr. Schock, really, is Mother Nature capable of shaping those blocks on all 6 sides, making 6 times breaks at 90 degrees, transporting them from the quarry for a couple of miles, laying them out so perfectly, connecting them with the artificial binder, and even making stairs. You make your own conclusions.
Pyrotechnic blow.
The moon pyramid. We were opening the sondas from the bottom to the top, 46 of them. Wherever we are digging, we are finding paved terraces, rectangular structures, vertical walls, more terraces, steps, shaped blocks and plates, more walls. In other words, below the layers of soil, a huge artificial structure in the shape of the pyramid with the triangular faces and the perfect orientation. We are at the top of the moon pyramid, removed about 3 foot of soil. We are finding the first terrace, the second one, the third one. Then we cut the hole, and let's see who we found in the hole. So, the profile. The first row of blocks, 4 inches of clay, which was used as a binder. The second row of blocks, 4 inches of clay. The third row of blocks, clay. The ancient builders were wise. They knew the properties of natural construction materials. As for the clay, they knew it was a binder, but also a waterproof, thermal insulation, and it gives flexibility to the structure. During the earthquakes, the structure does not collapse, it breathes, and it goes back to the original position. The bottom of the moon pyramid. The first terrace, large sandstone plates, clay as the construction material. Middle-size plates, clay as a construction material. The small size, small, middle, large. Fibonacci formula. Geologists and archaeologists who attack us who are saying that the clay on the moon pyramids in Bosnia is a natural sedimentation. They don't know that the clay was used as the construction material. In the case of all Chinese pyramids, when they strip the pyramids of the soil and vegetation, they find out that 90% of it is clay. Even underground tunnels there, 80% of it is clay, with some of the bricks and sandstone plates. 3 miles from Bosnian pyramids, we discovered an artificial conical hill, tumulus, rounded sizes. With the excavation there, removing earth, soil, and finding megalithic terraces. Of course, our productivity improved here. One is working and just 2 of them are posing for the cameras. The theorists are coming, and they did discover that on the top of the tumulus, a very powerful energy flow. On one of the terraces, 4 feet below the layers of soil, we discovered this sandstone foot with the 5 toes. Actually, it's not. It matches the shoe size of number 8, which is the women's, female shoe size. For some people, it's definitive proof that the women built Bosnian pyramids. So now, how old are those Bosnian pyramids? They are covered by soil and vegetation. If we can figure out the age of soil, we can get the minimum age of the pyramid. The science that investigates the origin and the age of soil is called pedology. In Bosnia, we have the State Institute for Pedology, established by Professor Resulović. He took samples from the moon and the sun pyramid, and he got results. The age of the soil is between 12 and 15,000 years. So if the soil is 12, 15,000 years, it means that the structure is even older than that. This summer, in June 2012. We had our summer camp, and one of the crew was run by an Italian archaeologist, Niccolo Visconti. Young fellow with his crew was removing the layers of soil, expanding this archaeological trench. And below the soil and clay we just started generating, he discovered organic material on the top of the concrete blocks. This was a fossilized leaf. So the structure was there, the wind was blowing, bringing that leaf, which remained there. So now this leaf can give us, again, the minimum age of the structure, because the structure was already there, the concrete block was already there. We took samples, sent them to 2 different labs, and we got results from one lab, from the radiocarbon dating lab from Kiev, Ukraine. They said the age 24,800 years, plus minus 200 years. So we are going back 25,000 years. Anything we touch in the case of the Bosnian Pyramid project changes the view of the history forever. The first pyramids in Europe, the biggest, the largest on the planet, the most precise orientation of the sides to the north on the planet, the best quality concrete on the planet, and now the oldest pyramid on the planet. The history books will have to be replaced. You cannot just add one paragraph in the beginning. Because when you change the beginning, everything else that follows has to be changed. So, PhDs are not good anymore. Professorships, no bueno. The way they teach our kids, no good. So what do? Either we change all that from little Bosnia and Croatia and France and UK and US, or we try to stop this little foundation and this little guy with their work. And really, how come that the Bosnian pyramids are older than Egyptian ones? You know, in Bosnia, we tend to build everything without the construction permit. So while we are building ours, Egyptians were standing in line, waiting for construction permits. But what really was happening 10, 12, 25,000 years ago? According to the mainstream scientists, nothing. It was the age of the caveman. It seems that they don't read about the sensational archaeological discoveries in the last 15 years. Among them, on the bottom of the Pacific floor, because the most western Japanese island of Yonaguni and the island of Taiwan and the mainland China, in that triangle, 13 underwater cities were discovered. And they are connected with 400 miles of the stone roads. We can see the structures with the step design, pyramidal in shape, with temples on the top, steps, half-circle terraces. The moment these photos were published in the Japanese newspaper, the Japanese archaeologists and historians jumped to conclusion that this was all natural. And then they are supported by German and American scientists. What is their problem? They know that the people will start asking questions. Who and when and how? Well, these structures are 100 to 200 feet below the water level. Now this is the Pacific Ocean, the largest body of water on our planet. Imagine how much water you would need to raise the level for 1 inch only. And 250 feet. It had to be a global catastrophe. Well, we know when was the last global catastrophe. It was 12,500 years ago, with the end of the last ice age. Of course, those structures were not built on the bottom of Pacifica. At one time, they were on the surface. The global catastrophe came, the ice age melted huge quantities of ice, the water level rose. Civilizations vanished. 250 feet, the Pacific Ocean rose. 400 feet, the Atlantic Ocean rose. 99% of humanity was lost forever. Few of them who hid themselves in the underground tunnels and the caves on the top of the mountain survived. When they got back on the surface, the civilization was gone forever. They had to start from the beginning, and that's the Neolithic culture from 10,000 years ago. Eastern Turkey, the location of Göbekli Tepe, 11 to 13,000 years old. The human remains were found here, and what we have here are the megaliths in the shape of letter T. Some of them reaching 75 tons, 175,000 pounds, obviously not shaped by the primitive caveman. 13,000 years before the end of the last ice age. American anthropologists are saying it simply should not be there. But it's there. Machu Picchu. We think that we know everything about this site. Every textbook, every encyclopedia, every internet reference is saying one thing and one thing only. The royal retreat for Incas from 13th to 16th century. Every book. But one. Mine. Now, what we can see here are the blocks of 250 tons that belong to the first civilization, to the first original builders. 250 tons on the top of the mountain, which is about 8,500 feet, remote area between the Andes and Amazon. The chemical analysis has shown that this type of material is nowhere to be found 120 miles around. The closest quarry in Bolivia. Who dragged 250 tons from Bolivia on the top of the mountain with no roads? Even today there are no roads. 1960 they got the first train over there. Not a primitive man. The second civilization, tens of tons that perfectly fit each other, no binding material. After thousands of years, the walls are still here. The third civilization, they used blocks the same size. That's our logic. Make a factory, produce millions of the same size pieces, blocks, and then you build your villas and palaces and temples. 1, 2, 3, thousands of years passed. Incas came. They found a lost city at Machu Picchu, and they used these small stones. They made a separation between these megalithic walls, primitive roofs, and that's where they were bringing their royals. They are teaching us that the humanity has evolutionary development. Wrong. The most developed, the oldest. And then it goes down. However, we can see the faces of builders. If we rotate the Machu Picchu for 90 degrees and look at the three mountains, we can see the nose and the lips and the cheek and their eye. We are not talking about the messages in stones. We are talking about the terraforming on the largest scale. 55,000 years have passed. The more we look at the face, the more we realize how calm and beautiful it is. Facing the universe. It's telling us a lot about them. Let's go back to Bosnia. 2008, the first international scientific conference on Bosnian pyramids. 55 scientists, 20 countries concluded the Bosnian pyramids are archaeological phenomena, not geological, not natural. Professor Nabil Selam, 3 times PhD in archaeology, in his written scientific reports is saying the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is the biggest in the world. 2007, 2008, he was running the investigation there with his Egyptian teams. When he got retired, they put so much pressure on him, they threatened him that he's going to lose his pension, retirement. And now he's saying, well, he's not quite sure if it is natural or artificial. Professor Ezra Zubrov, an archaeologist from Buffalo State University, he teaches in New York, he teaches in Canada, he teaches in UK. When he came to Bosnia, he was so impressed that he said publicly, during the TV interview, you need to find out who built the Bosnian pyramids, when they were built. He put it on YouTube, he came back to New York, his colleagues attacked him, and now he wants to dissociate himself from the project. The German archaeologists in 2008 discovered this fine ceramic pyramid 2 miles away from the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. They were not working with us, as a matter of fact, they were working with the Bosnian National Museum, which was saying there's nothing there, everything natural. And they found this beautiful pyramid. 4 sides, triangular faces, corners, plateau on the top. Even the ornaments were pyramidal ornaments. Those who were against us are finding the proofs for our project. 2011, September, the second scientific conference, 27 scientists from 11 countries. Conclusion, this is a globally important project. The history books will have to be changed. 2012, another conference. Klaus Donau, Austria, Philip Coppens, Professor de Bertolis, Italy, Mizrak, PhD, Croatia, and so on and so forth. They went another step forward. They were talking about the purpose of pyramids. Next year, September 2013, we're going to have people like Coppens and Klaus Donau and Professor J.J. Hurtak again coming to Bosnia. So every year, the first week of September, we will have our conferences with the guided tours, and you got some flyers in the back. So the first 5-6 years, we are talking about the Bosnian pyramids as the construction complex. We have geometry, we have orientation, we have man-made concrete, we have underground tunnels, we have the tunnels inside the pyramids. So now we need to move forward. We don't intend to spend another 100 years convincing everyone that we have pyramid complex. We need to find out what is the purpose of this complex, and archaeologists, geologists cannot help us because nobody teaches them about the purpose of existing pyramids. Who can? Experts in energy, physicists and electrical engineers. The first one to come, Dr. Mizrak from Zagreb, came with his 10-member team. He was measuring electromagnetic phenomena on Bosnian pyramids. He was going around on natural hills, no anomalies. On the Sun Pyramid, no anomaly, until he came to the very top. Over there, in a radius of 13 feet, he detected electromagnetic field of 28 kilohertz frequency. He got out of the radius, nothing. He came back, it was there. It meant this electromagnetic field does not go left and the right on the surface. It goes up. A month later, Serbian scientist, engineer Goran Marjanović, came with his equipment and he independently confirmed the same frequency on the top of the Sun Pyramid. Few months later, Finnish sound engineer, Heikki Savolainen, and then anthropologists from Italy, Professor De Bertolis, they all detected the same phenomenon on the top of the Sun pyramid, the same frequency. In a science, when you have 4 independent confirmation, it is called international validation. So, what we have on the top of the Sun pyramid is some type of energy beam, electromagnetic in the nature, of 13 feet radius of 28 kilohertz frequency during all seasons, spring and summer and fall and winter. Now, we can hear things like, oh, I believe or I don't believe in energy being. It's possible or it is impossible. But these are opinions. In science, opinions are irrelevant. In science, only scientific arguments matter. Testing, analysis, dating. In order to produce 28 kilohertz frequency, you have to have machine, because this frequency never comes as a result of natural sources. You have to have technology. So the Bosnian pyramid of the Sun is actually an energy machine. And then we measured the strength of the signal on the surface, 10 feet higher, and another 10 feet higher. Every time we moved this antenna, the strength of the signal was getting stronger and stronger. Now, if the source is inside the pyramid, you would expect closer to the source, the stronger the signal. You move away, the signal should be getting weaker.
Yeah.
And that's what our technology is based on. We call it Hertzian technology. But since in Bosnia everything is upside down, our pyramids work differently. In our case, you move away from the pyramid, the signal is getting stronger. So let's call this phenomenon non-Hertzian phenomenon. In the 21st century, we don't have technology which is non-Hertzian in nature. However, the guy who was born 250 miles to the west from Bosnian pyramids was experimenting with this type of technology in 1899 and 1900 in his lab in Colorado Springs. And his name was Nikola Tesla. He invented what we call today Tesla's coil, or Tesla's transformer. He was able to send an energy beam with this Tesla's coil from one end of his lab to another one 55 feet away, wirelessly, in 1899. And he was able to lit up the fluorescent bulbs, even if they were burned out. Well, before they're going to burn out his lab in 1900, he did the last experiment. He sent the energy beam from his lab to the ionosphere around our planet. That energy beam reflected from ionosphere. It was coming back, but this time much stronger. Non-Hertzian phenomenon. And then he was able to lit up 10,000 homes in Colorado Springs. For the first time, somebody has proven that clean energy was possible, that unlimited quantities of energies were possible, that wireless technology was possible, that non-Hertzian phenomenon was possible, and that free energy was possible. Did American and other corporations accept this invention? How would they sell free energy? How would they make money? For them, it was much more profitable to build very expensive thermal and hydro power plants, today nuclear power plants, and then to transport them through wires and to lose 20 to 50% of the energy, so finally they can sell it to us the end users for a lot of money. But the day will come that we're going to have a free energy. And that would be the first pillar of the free society. The second one will be the free flow of knowledge. Not only the belonging to the elites, and based on that knowledge, they get their power. Media, corporations, politics. With those two pillars, we're going to have a base for the society of the free men and women. The height of Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, 767 meters. If we continue with this slope, we are getting a virtual top 782 meters, which is exactly the same like the length of the secondary wire on Tesla's coil. The lengths were always very important because the length determines the frequency. Austrian explorer Klaus Donner in 2011 brought us this illustration of the Sun Pyramid. Northern slope, eastern. His friend, who's a geophysicist from Germany, has a special technology which can penetrate the surface for 1,000 feet. What is commercially available is about 55 feet. This is technology used for the military purposes. Now, different colors show different levels of tunnels inside the Bosnian pyramid. For example, light blue, 5 meter diameter, about 16 feet. Here's light blue, and it ends with a circle, which is a chamber. White, 10 meters deep, 33 feet. Here's white, a lot of white. And a lot of circles, a lot of chambers. Blue, 40 meters, about 130 feet. Here's blue. We have brown, we have yellow, we have black, and so on. And also, we can see that every higher level is a little bit moved, like it's forming the spiral. The spiral, very important. If you have the spiral inside the pyramid, you got the base for your non-Hertzian waves, for your Tesla's waves. It's not only the Bosnian pyramid which is still active. The Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan pyramid in Chichen Itza in Mexico was filmed by the tourists from El Salvador 3 years ago. And then he realized that what he filmed was an energy beam coming to the very top of the pyramid. But also some other important archaeological sites, like hair temples in Greece. This one is on mainland Greece, when they filmed the energy vortex. And then Dr. DJ Nelson from the US made a replica of Great Pyramid of Egypt, 52 degrees, 4 sides, oriented to the north, put Tesla's coil inside, and then through the top he got Tesla's waves, non-Hertzian waves. In April of 2012, we did an experiment on the top of the Sun Pyramid. We brought about 600 pounds of equipment. We were thinking, if the pyramid acts as the energy machine, producing energy beam of certain frequency and strength, let's see what's going to happen if we emit our own electromagnetic energy to the pyramid, and let's see what we're going to get back. The physicists got the projection. They were saying we should get back 0.9 volts. For 54 hours, we were emitting our energy, getting all the results filmed, and the results was 3.9 volts, more than 3 times stronger than expected. The physicists could not explain that. It seems that the Bosnian pyramid acts not only as the energy machine, but also as the intelligent energy machine. The second thing, we wanted to find the source of this energy. We sent all our raw information to the labs in Zagreb, Belgrade, and Vienna, Austria. they all told us the same thing. If you get the strength of the signal at the top of the pyramid, then you should have the source, which is iron plate, bigger in size than the pyramid, because the iron generates electromagnetic fields. And that plate should be at a distance of 2,440 meters, which is approximately 1.5 miles. Well, that source can be above the pyramid or below the pyramid, because the signal is here. If it was above the pyramid, then we should be able to see the iron plate, which is 1.5 miles. We see nothing, it means it's below the pyramid, with a shift of about 450 yards. So we got the iron plate emitting electromagnetic field, and the pyramid is sucking this energy, and we got the natural source of energy, and the pyramid is acting as the energy machine for more than 25,000 years. The first case of the perpetual mobile, producing more than 10 kilowatts worth of power. Professor De Bertolus from University of Trieste were discovering another energy phenomena, infrasound and ultrasound. Infrasound is the vibration, ultrasound is the vibration, which we cannot hear. We hear from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Everything below 20 hertz is infrasound. Everything vibrates in nature. The trees, they vibrate. Our planet vibrates 6 hertz. The pyramid vibrates at 7 hertz. And the ultrasound, again, we cannot hear, some animals can, but we can measure it. And he was able to measure the ultrasound only on the top of the sun pyramid in the radius of 30 feet, like ultrasound beam. Again, this is for the first time that such measurements were done on one of the pyramids on the planet. So let's hear for the first time how the pyramid speaks. Now, we can convert this sound to the sound of piano.
That's jazzy pyramid.
During the winter, it's very similar. And then the people ask us, can you slow it down and see if we can recognize anything? And that's what we did. Strange country. In our country, even the pyramids speak. So, when we see this sound, we can see the peaks at 28 kilohertz. And we can see the regularity.
Yeah, very.
It's like we have blocks of ultrasound. When you have regularity, it means you have the machine. So what we did the measurement on the natural hills. No regularity. You don't have the same peaks. And then some people were saying, well, maybe it's just the shape. Maybe it's a natural hill and it's producing ultrasound. So what we did, we went to Italy, on Monte Pavione, which has a regular and looks like a pyramid shape. No regularity, no blocks of ultrasound. So obviously the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia was built as the energy machine, which is still working. Okay, let me go.
Oh, right.
Yes, don't have time for that one. Of course, more info in the book, Pyramids Around the World. Under the Bosnian pyramids, network of tunnels. 1.5 kilometers from the pyramid. The tunnels, they run for tens of miles. In order to build the tunnels, they had to remove a lot of material. Which material? Pebbles, rocks, stone. What did they do with it? They used every cubic foot in order to build the concrete blocks and cover the biggest pyramids. So, direct link between the tunnels and the pyramids. Now, we can see traces of two civilizations in the tunnels. The first one who built a huge network, and the second one who decided to close all these tunnels. They brought this fill-in material and they closed the tunnel, and at the end they would build this dry wall using the stones from the river beds. So both the builders and those who fill it in, they were able to maneuver with a lot of materials, building a lot of walls. Every year we clean approximately 600-700 new feet, so we are going deeper and deeper in the tunnels. We check all the measurements for temperature. It's 12 degrees, which is very pleasant in the tunnels. The humidity, 85%. Electromagnetic fields are present in the tunnels. No poisonous gases. Deeper you go, you breathe better and better. This summer, after my lectures in Dallas, we did a couple of very interesting expeditions. We were getting all this equipment, moving to the new sections, unexplored, very narrow, removing barriers with our hands, going through very narrow tunnels, finding sections with the water, new walls that nobody has seen for thousands of years. And of course, that's why we have a smile on our faces. We got the rope also with us, because we went through several intersections. So we wanted to get back safely. We are finding more blocks with some carvings. And of course, we give everything that we found out to the media. No selection of information, no secrets in our case. Some of the sections have those walls. They're about 25, 30, 40 feet in length, and they act as a support for the ceiling, meaning it's all artificially made. And some of them that we discovered have those channels. Somebody was cutting the channels in the clay. Since there is an angle there, water moves. When water moves, it releases negative ions, which are very good for our bodies. They clean our blood from viruses and microbes. We tested the water, did chemical and microbiological analysis. The result, water which has been there for thousands of years, is clean, healthy, and drinkable. 2006, this is our megalith K2, covered by conglomerate. 2012, here it is, 18,000 pounds, sitting on support, meaning somebody has chosen this place as very important, and they put this block on top of it. We discovered that 70 feet below, we have underground river. Water moves, releases the energy, they put the block on top of it. The surface of the block looks like relief. with the hills and the valleys and the rivers. We took samples, did Röntgen diffraction analysis and phased analysis at the Institute for Atomic Physics in Zagreb. They told us that this megalith is an artificial ceramic material. If it is ceramic, somebody made it. And then, instead of destroying it to see if there is anything inside, we applied georadar instrument. And the experts told us that exactly in the middle of this megalith, there is an oval object. It's not a hollow place, it's not water or any other liquid, it's not ceramic, it's not metal, but the mineral, most probably quartz crystal. So what do we have? We have underground water flow, 70 feet below. The energy is getting up, hitting that quartz crystal. It starts working. It is surrounded by ceramic. Ceramic vibrates, and the vibration generates electromagnetic fields, which can be measured by our scientific instruments. And we measured 28 kilohertz frequency, the same one like on the top of the Sun Pyramid, the same one like on the top of the cumuli, and those are three only places where we measured this frequency. Everywhere else, nothing like this. So, what we have here in front of our eyes is actually the ancient technology, different than ours, but still technology. They were maneuvering with the natural material and natural energy resources in order to get this frequency for some very important reason. Whoever gets there, realize that when you open your hands, you are getting energy through your fingers. And then we are receiving more and more testimonies about the healing properties of the tunnels, and especially this site, megalithic site, and the other one where we have underground chambers. We are finding underground lakes. The water in artificial water accumulation are reaching 5.5 feet. 2006, megalith K1 covered by conglomerate. We clean and remove the conglomerate. We realize it's 9,000 pounds, and on its surface we got carved symbols and more symbols. Total of 25 symbols. And more carvings on other plates, and more carvings. Some of them are like the combination between geometrical symbols and some type of letters. The oldest European writing is called the runic writings, the runes. Is the combination of the geometry and the letters, arrows. On this particular one, we have 7 symbols that match the runic writings. One potential decipherment came here from the US of those 7 symbols, and it's saying, gate is closed, we are on standstill. We will have to fight to defend and conquer until we are able to go through the Stargate. More walls in new sections, and a company. More. In spiritual science, we call them orbs. More. We discovered that there is no negative cosmic radiations in the tunnels. Hartmann grids equals 0. Our body cells, like here today, have to fight all these negative radiations which we don't see. But when we get in the tunnels, no negative radiation, so our body cells are free to do their job. The concentration of negative ions is getting higher and higher, and that's good for our body. The deeper we go in the tunnels, the environment is getting better and better for us. Lab for radioactivity from University of Sarajevo find out there are no natural radioactivity in the tunnels. Again, that's good for our body. So, what's happening then? our body cells can start doing some repair work on our body. One way to determine that was to check our aura. One of our volunteers, the youngest one, 74 years old, from Slovenia, engineer Janez Pelko, came with the equipment, measuring the aura, and this is mine before I entered the tunnels. Left side, where there is a blue, that's aura. If it is continuous, you are in a good, healthy condition. This is the other side. Obviously, here it's missing, potential problem with the blood circulation. The red and orange is a stress from our daily life. I spent 1.5 hours inside, came back, look at it now, more blue. Here it's completely healed, and even the stress is pushed back. So you spend some time there, there is a regeneration process on your body. Why? Because body cells, without those enemies, all these cosmic radiations, radioactivity, they can focus on the body itself, and they start fixing the problem. Now, the Russian scientist Valery Uvarov built a pyramid in his backyard. He measured the aura before and after, and he got the same effect. Oops, this is my wife in the kitchen, preparing a special present for you. We got some selected stones from the underground tunnels with the special energies. So after the lecture, you can talk to her and you can choose the one that is calling you. In my book about the Akashic record readings, I made an interesting experiment with the 6 Akashic record readers. For the first time, somebody wanting to bridge the gap between physical and the spiritual science. I wanted to verify the results that we are getting from, Akasha, from the Akashic records. So what I did, I had 30 different archaeological sites in the world, from Machu Picchu to Chinese pyramid, from Egypt to US, from Mauritius to Bosnia, asking the same question, all 6 Akashic record readers. So I applied scientific protocols. I did not tell them too much. In the case of underground labyrinth in Bosnia, I just showed them the picture and asking them, what can you tell me about the underground labyrinth? Reader number 1, Nancy, she said, they used the material from the tunnels to build the pyramids. And we can verify that. Now, have in mind that none of them knew what I was going to ask them. They were never in Bosnia. They never met me, so they actually didn't know the site. There was ecology to it. There was a catacomb feeling. This one has a round center with different tunnels radiating out, and you could find different passages, like rays of sun. Reader number 2, Leah. Beneath the pyramids are tunnels. They are talking about the water. They did get a lot of their resources from under the ground. One of the purposes for the tunnels was to go the chosen ones that worked with the energy from one tunnel to another. You had to be of only certain people could travel into pyramids or through these tunnels. Reader number 3, well, today it's open for everyone. So some of you who comes to Bosnia next summer, of course you will have the free access. Reader number, because those of you who come, it means you have a connection in the past with this complex. Reader number 3, Lois. There are tunnels that are intentionally filled with rocks and stuff to keep people from getting inside. A very deep cavern under there that connects to the cavern system under the earth. There are beings that could get up in there, but they don't go there for some reason. Reader number 4. Now, I see beings again, of course, more about the beings in the book, but beings walking into the tunnels down deep is where they actually lived. So, you go deeper, you're getting more structures, more built feelings with rooms and technological appearance. They closed the chamber off, they sealed up other chambers, and then they sealed the outside completely. We can see that. The ancient alien part of your soul is very well aware of these beings. You knew they had hidden a certain type of technology beyond our current understanding. Reader number 5, Diane, there was a healing chamber down there at one point. This was a place where the energy was just right to speed healing of the body. The first 4 or 5 years over there, we would not get so many testimonies about the health. But this year and last year, as we, cleaned approximately 1,100 yards, or about 3,000 feet, more and more testimonies. The hallways are about moving the energy in certain directions. There was something like a laser that allowed them to literally curve out the area with not much difficulty. Because for us it was really the question how they made all those tunnels. The second group of beings were using the energy in a way not intended to be used in the beginning, and the original beings made an attempt to have them sealed off. So now we're talking about the two civilizations. Reader number 6, the tunnels are very extensive. There is a main room. If you continue to the left, you will find what you are looking for: peace, no resistance, and purpose. You will find artifacts, symbols, structures. The tunnels were closed by a later generation because what was in there was sacred to them. Now it's time to discover this. So the purpose of underground labyrinth, it's not just to connect a couple of 3 pyramids on the surface, because they would build 2 or 3 tunnels. When you have underground labyrinth, the energy flow in different directions. And some of the benefits, of course, is for our health, but it seems that the pyramid feeds off all these tunnels and iron plates and negative ions and the underground water between them. Of course, you always have electricity, so the pyramid was sucking all different types of energy. And for the end, every year, tens of thousands of tourists are coming to Bosnia, the country which was known during the 1990s as a country of war and the violence and the problems, all the negative news. Now we want to change that to the country of the archaeology and cultural heritage and volunteers and tourism. So we want people to come from all over the world, and so far we've had them from 80 countries. We want to develop the private initiative. We want, yes, the New Egypt, we want the young people to come there, to experience the project for themselves. We want those who are not so young, in numbers. We want all these blondes, from from Northern Europe. Oh? Yes. We want tourists like those from Malaysia who came and laid on the concrete of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, getting charged with the positive energy of the pyramid. We want to build a complex which will be a replica of the Bosnian pyramids of the sun and the moon and the dragon and the triangle between them and the love and the temple of Mother Earth and the tumulus and underground labyrinth, or 5-star luxury hotel, archaeological museum, and the congress tourism and the healing facility, and rent a guide, rent a car, rent a horse, rent a paraglider, rent a Bosnian.
An archaeologist.
Yes, $50 million. So when I finish the lecture, if you can please, collect this money so I can go back and build the project. The summer solstice, 2012, the June 21st, 150 people from 25 countries. Our mantra was mantra about the love and unity and harmony. The last 15 minutes, we all were standing up. We were sending those messages, and then we felt that we are getting help. The pyramid was sending the signals through us. Next year we want to get another event, not 150, but maybe 500 people. So one of the free flyers over there is about our summer solstice event. It'll be 1-week event, seeing different Bosnian sites, but one day we'll be on the top of the Sun Pyramid. We want to send this type of messages to the world, waiting for the sunset. And finally, every year, International Summer Camp for Volunteers. 2010, we had volunteers, 500 of them, from 30 countries. First we show them locations, they do archaeological training first day, and then they start working. Yes. Sometimes it's a hard work. Of course, we got volunteers from 8 to 83 years. 2011, we had them from 32 countries. And then this year, from 52 countries and 6 continents. And they always come with a smile, working above the ground and in the underground, archaeological, not political. And again, bringing the friendship on the Bosnian soil. Sending the messages. Let me see this message. From deep inside the tunnel. Everything is possible. And this message traveled with the material all the way outside, about 1,100 yards. This one says, beautiful people love each other. And this one, the one who wrote it first, who do you love the most? When he got the message back, the answer was you. So yes, these are the messages we want to send from the heart of Bosnia. And we want these beautiful people who are part of something so proactive, so beautiful, that one day this pyramid, which is completely covered by solid vegetation, again, see the sun as the biggest, the most beautiful, and the oldest pyramids of all. Thank you very much.